We're going to change gears now and look a little closer at loans and basically things that we spend money on. So car loans, mortgages, credit card debt, and how that relates and how we can sort of figure out how to best pay things off if we set goals for ourselves. Now, we're going to start a little bit. This video is going to focus primarily on mortgages and car loan types of things. So I pulled this chart here for you to look at because what I wanted to stress for you is if you notice this yellow line here is your interest. And if you're looking at sort of the life of a loan, often with a loan, initially, right off the bat, you are paying more interest than a principal, which means you're paying off sort of the fee of taking out the loan initially at a higher rate than you are later. You'll notice that, it's not till sort of the end of the loan that you're really paying off mainly the loan and not, the original loan amount instead of, the fee for taking the money. Often when you go and buy a house or you get a mortgage, you're going to get something known as an amortization table. And what that table actually would spell out for you is for each of your mortgage payments, how much of that money went towards the principal and how much of that money went towards the loan. And you might be going, who cares? Why would I care about that? Well, it matters with things like houses because if I went and sold my house and I still am paying off my loan, I'm not going to necessarily get to pocket all of the money that I made from selling my house. I would still owe the bank however much of the principal is left on my loan. And so things like that do sort of come into effect. Now, for this class, we're sort of going to keep it relatively simple. We're not going to get into all the details of mortgages and car loans that exist. There's a lot of stuff here. Real estate agents have to study for a long time to sort of just be able to handle it all. But from this sort of surface level dive, you should have a basic understanding then of sort of the pieces of that sort of loan. All right, so we're going to dive right in and look at a mortgage problem. So if you go to Zillow, and this like a month ago in June, the average sort of the median price of a house was $502,221. And the average home loan rate for a 30-year loan was 7.1% and a 15-year loan was 6.47%. So those are the typical two lengths of house mortgages you have. And we are assuming on this that you're putting a 20% down payment and you have a decent credit score. So credit score does come into play with what sorts of loans you can get, and how much money you're willing to put down on the house also may impact the rate of your loan. What a down payment is the down payment is not part of your loan. So it's separate from it. You're going to pay that amount up front. It's sort of your upfront payment, and basically we just need to take that amount out. So you want to think of your down payment as sort of your upfront payment, and it's not part of the loan. You've already paid it, okay? Now, when we then say, so we're going to change colors here so it stands out, that we want to know how much is financed. When we use the term financed, that's the amount you borrowed, okay? So that's your loan amount. So as we mentioned already, we need to take out the down payment because that's not going to be part of what gets, financed in our loan. Well, if we have a 20% down payment, so a 20% down payment basically means that of the price for my home, of that $502,000, our loan amount is going to be for the remaining 100%, which would be 80% is going to be the loan. That's the rest of the cost. And so I need to find 80% of that initial cost. So 80% is 0.8 times that total cost of the house. And I would find out that I'm going to take out a loan for $401,776.80. So you put down quite a bit of money if you put down 20%. But this key amount, that's how much we're financing. That's what our loan's going to be worth. So then we have two loan options. We have a 30-year loan and a 15-year loan to look at. And you'll notice, and you might be going, well, why wouldn't I want the 15-year loan? The interest rate is lower. That's not the only thing we have to take into consideration with this. So we're going to go back and we're going to be using our TVM solvers for this. So we're just going to break apart what we know with this and what we're thinking. So in these cases, our PV is going to be your loan amount. It's what you're financing. And I like to keep that number positive. This is how much money I owe the bank. So in this case, it'd be $401,776.80. I want to get my loan amount to zero. I want a future value of $0. This basically means that, your loan is paid off. It's totally paid off. I owe $0 to the bank. And so what we'll often be trying to find then in these cases is we're going to be looking for that payment amount. What is that sort of payment? Now, for the sake of our class and to keep things simple, we are going to say that there are 12 payments per year. So it's compounding monthly. And so in this case, we got our interest rate is 7.1. And this is a 30-year loan. So I'd have 30 times 12. When I go over to the 15-year loan, almost everything's going to be the same except the rate and the N and the I, but the loan amount is still for the same amount of money. I still want to know my payment. My future value is 0. It's 12 payments a year, but now my interest rate is a little lower, and I'm only going to be going for half the amount of time. Okay, now, in both these cases, I want to switch over to my TVM solver so that I can calculate out my monthly payments. And then from there, we'll talk about how we can figure out our interest payments and all that fun stuff. So we're going to split our screen. All right, so we have our time value money solver. Let's start with the 30-year loan. So on our 30-year loan, we have 30 times 12, an interest rate of 7.1%. Our the amount we borrowed was 401,707. Oops, too many sevens. 6.80. I want my future value to be 0, and I have 12 payments per year. What will be my monthly payment? And so I can see, okay, I'm going to be paying $2,700, and don't drop off those 7 cents each month. That would be your mortgage payment. That's how much you're going to owe. Now, in reality, on top of this, loan companies also factor in home insurance, homeowners insurance and tax. Often within those mortgage payments, we're not looking at that. We're purely saying if that's the loan amount, how much would I owe? We're trying to keep this a little simple. So just in case you're like, but what about? Simplify it for now, okay? All right, let's now look at the 15-year loan. So if we switch over to the 15-year loan, now it's only going to be 15 times 12 because it's less time. And my interest is 6.47. And so that's going to change my monthly payment. And what you should notice here is, oh my goodness, that monthly payment is significantly higher. We're going to be paying $3,493.28. And you're like, but the interest rate is lower. How is my monthly payment higher? Well, I'm paying off the same amount of a loan in a shorter period of time. So my monthly payment ends up being higher. But there are advantages still to that, the shorter loan, even though my monthly cost is higher. So let's take a look, because the second question here is now asking us to figure out how much interest did we pay on this loan. So a reminder, if I want to find interest is the amount of money I pay, that basically is that I paid beyond the loan amount. So I would basically take the total amount you paid. Well, to figure out the total amount you paid, you take your monthly payments and you would times it by the number of payments you made. And then you're going to subtract out your loan amount. And that's going to find for you your interest. So in the case of this particular problem, we would have had a payment amount of that $2,700.07, and there were 360 payments, which means overall you spent $972,000 on this house. And you're like, oh my goodness, that's so much more than my loan. Yes, it is. You end up paying a good portion of interest on these loans because they're over such a long period of time. Now, if I subtract out the amount that my loan was for, I see that I ended up paying $570,000, $248.40 in interest. So you paid more in interest on this loan than you did for the loan itself. And that's the thing. But most of us don't have $400,000 to spend on a house in one sitting, which is why then we have to borrow money from the bank. And the bank's like, if you're going to borrow money from me, you have to pay for it. And that's what the interest payments are all about. Now, let's take a look at this 15-year loan, because on the surface you go, well, I'm paying more per month, so clearly I don't want that loan. But if I take that monthly payment, and now I say, I'm not actually spending, 300, I'm not paying that 360 times, I'm actually only doing it half the amount of times. And then just like before, I'm going to take away my original loan amount to find my interest. Now, how much got actually spent? A significant amount less than the previous one, the other loan. Because this time, you actually only spent $628,790 on this house total. So that's over $300,000 less by having a loan half the time. And so what you notice here is that my interest paid, you actually only paid $227,013 in interest. And so if you can afford the higher monthly payments, the shorter loan will end up costing you less in the long run. But the key is, again, you have to be able to make the higher monthly payments. So these shorter loans have higher monthly payments, but they're going to cost you less in the long run. So it's one of those sort of give or takes. Can you handle it? Now, as you're thinking about this, every extra little bit you can put in each month is going to change how much money you end up spending in the long run. So like, for example, let's say you want to add $50 a month to your payment. So what that would mean in that 30-year loan is instead of paying $2,700 a month, you would actually pay $2,750 a month. And instead on the 15-year loan of paying the $3,493, you would actually pay $3,543.28. So if we increase the amount we're paying, and we still want to get a future value of 0, we're still paying 12 times a year, we're still taking out a loan of $400,000, and our interest rate is still 7.1, I want to know how much money you're going to save. Well, what's going to change here is actually the number of times you have to pay. So our payment number is going to change because now I'm paying more. So it's not going to take the full 360 payments to pay off my loan. Same idea over here. I'm going to be looking for my number. The sort of number of payments will change while everything else will stay the same. And so the more I can pay, it should take less time to then pay off the loan. So let's go back to our TVM solver. We're going to clear it out. And then let's start with the 30-year loan again. So we're going to say, okay, 7.1. It's still 401. I probably shouldn't have cleared this out. I'm realizing now, but I did. I know my payment. Now remember, payments are money out of pocket, so we're going to use negative here, 2750.07. The future value I want to be 0, and it's 12 payments per year. And so if I solve for n, notice my number of payments is 338.7. And yes, I keep that 0.7. You'll find on mortgage payments, sometimes your last payment isn't a full payment. So I want that decimal there. All right, so I actually don't need as many payments. And you might be going, well, does that actually save me money? Okay, well, if I only have 338.7 payments, I'm no longer going to be spending quite as much money on the house because I'd have that. So let's, switch gears for a second. So I'd have that 338.7 times my monthly payment minus the amount for the house. And I would find that now I'm only paying $529,671 in interest, which if I compare to the original interest amount I have, I'm saving over $40,000. By spending an extra $50 each month, I saved a good amount of money. I could go buy a car with that money. So it's sort of looking at, what can I do with my finances to help make it better? Pause the video for a minute. I'd like you to try the next one on your own. I'm not going to do it out in the calculator, but if you check your work, you should find the interest. So pause for a minute. And when you come back, you'll find out that on this other loan, our interest ended up being $221,025.53, which doesn't save us as much. It saves you we saved about $6,000. So it's still money, but just because the loan's shorter, it doesn't have quite as big of impact. But still, $50 extra meant $6,000 in my pocket at the end of the loan, plus the loan was paid off in a quicker amount of time. So hopefully you have a sense of how we can use our TVM solver to deal with some mortgage calculations and looking at sort of a big picture of getting an idea about borrowing money and what we could think about when taking out some loans.